Welcome, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Lynn Berger, host of Lynn Berger Interviews Remarkable People. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Harrison Greenbaum. Harrison is a spectacular and talented magician and comedian. And we're going to go on a journey today talking about how he became who he is today. Harrison, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice to see your apartment.
And yours.
That's the weird thing about these Zoom things is we get to see everybody's houses. I
Right.
evidently live in a Twitch stream.
Well, I love the background, so you'll have to tell us later what is there. So take me back, Harrison. So when you were a child, and when did you begin to become interested in being a magician?
That's great. When I was 5 years old, my dad showed me a magic trick, and he wouldn't tell me how we did it, and I became obsessed. And I think that really set me on the path. I got a Hanukkah gift of a magic set. That was really exciting, and it seemed to combine a lot of the things that I loved doing. I loved performing. I loved coming up with stuff. There's a hands-on aspect to magic of creating the effect. And it wasn't until later on there I realized that one of the things that I enjoyed the most was making people laugh, which is how I ended up transitioning into stand-up comedy.
Great, great. So at 5, you knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had quizzed me, I think in my kindergarten yearbook, I said architect. So I'm one of the only weirdos that went from in the kindergarten yearbook, we had people who said they wanted to be a princess when they grew up. And we're talking America, where there is no, so like people had completely unfounded dreams. And I was like architect, and I'm the one who became the performer. So it's the total flip flop. I was the only one in the yearbook of kindergarten with a serious job. And now I'm the only one without one. Yeah, so I was in college. I'd been doing magic, as I said, since I was 5. And I was in API, the Jewish fraternity. And my frat brother said, hey, would you like to be on a stand-up comedy show? They produce one a year on campus. There's only one stand-up comedy show a year on Harvard's campus. And it was this Demon Comedy Fest. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And he thought I was going to do magic. And I said, do you mind if I try stand-up? I've never done it. And he was like, yeah, do whatever you want. So I sat down at my computer and I wrote jokes. And I never done that before. I never actually just sat down to write stand-up. I had jokes in my magic act, but I never done pure stand-up. So I did that show, and it was the first show I ever cursed on, which felt amazing. I got to wear my own clothes, because when I used to do magic, I would always get dressed up, because every magician was in like a suit. I always looked like I was getting ready to go to a country club. So all of a sudden I was wearing jeans, and I was talking about things I wanted to talk about. And when that first laugh hits, it's a drug, it's addicting. And as soon as I heard it and felt it, I was like, oh my God, I love doing magic. But I think the thing that was keep driving me, especially when I was doing these comedy magic sets, was the laughter. And that summer I interned for Mad Magazine. I started barking for stage time, which is when you stand on the street corner and you hand out flyers.
Mhm.
If you hand out flyers for 2 hours, they give you 5 minutes at the end of the show. And I just started doing stand-up. And right in that first summer, I'd been barking for 2 hours. I was getting ready to go on stage for my 5 minutes. And a comedian saw me sticking sponge balls in my pocket, which are they're little balls of sponge. And I put them in my pocket. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, if the jokes don't work, I have a magic trick. This way I'll close strong. I want the audience leaving on a big note.
Mhm.
And he was like, if you have that in your back pocket, you're never going to be able to really learn. Stand-up comedy is about doing it without a net. You need to live or die by your jokes alone. And that's what makes a really good stand-up comedian, that sort of killer instinct. So I took it out of my pocket, and that really changed my life. From that point forward, I separated my magic and comedy for a really long time. It took a long time before I started to put them back together. But that really, changed my life and changed my career in that I realized that, doing pure stand-up without any crutches or any safety net is just, it's so exciting, and I love doing it. And it's the biggest adrenaline rush. And it's just like jumping out of a plane every night. and I love it. And yeah, now I'm just getting it. I feel like I'm a drug addict just talking about his first hits. But that's really what it is. It's the thing I love so much. Yeah, so I started the Harvard College Stand-Up Comic Society, also known as Harvard College Sucks. It was my friend Dave and I are the co-founders. Dave Ingber, also a super funny guy, because there was only one comedy show a year. That was the crazy thing. Is the next year I got back to campus and I was like, oh my god, I think we could have more than one stand-up comedy show a year on campus. So by my junior year, we had founded the club, and by the time I left, there were more than 50 shows a year. And I was doing stand-up all over campus. I was going to the comedy clubs, and it was amazing.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so you graduated from college, and
Yes.
then what happened?
I moved to New York. I moved to my parents' house in Long Island while I tried to find an apartment. I got out of that my parents' house by December of that year, December 2008.
Mm.
I'm still in this apartment, for better or for worse. It's been a long time. And yeah, I did over 700 shows my first year living in the city, full year. And when I right before I graduated college, my parents were like wondering what I was gonna do. They were like, "What is your job going to be?" And I said, "I'm gonna try stand up." And they really wanted me to apply to law school. And I was like, "No, I'm gonna give myself at least 2 years." So I sort of signed a contract with myself for 2 years, saying, give yourself a shot. And if at the end of 2 years you feel like you've accomplished something, give yourself another 2 years. So I kept giving myself 2-year contracts, and yeah, I keep re-upping, so that's a good sign.
Well, that's good. Maybe now you can go to 5-year contracts, right?
That's right, exactly. Yeah, I think I'm all in at this point.
Oh, okay. Well, so after when you gave yourselves those 2 years, that's fantastic because we call that in the career field tryout experiences. And if they work, you stick, and if not, you stop. So it seemed to have been a good strategy. So how did your family and take it when you said you wanted to become a comedian?
I think they were, they have very good poker faces. I found out later, I think they were a lot more worried than they let on. They're good parents, so I think their goal was to make sure that I could be self-sufficient and take care of myself and my future family. And once I was able to prove that I could, I think they were able to take a deep breath of relief. But yeah, they're really supportive, but I do think they were probably unbelievably nervous. And I had the, when you're 21 and I was living off of ramen and dollar pizza. So I thought everything was, I felt like I was living the life. So I enjoyed every second of it. And yeah, I think that's the key, is to be both realistic and supportive. So they supported me by hiding how scared they were.
So I know that you've been quite successful and you're very in demand. And
I've definitely been eliminated from all of your favorite reality television.
yes, we're going to get to that. But Time Out New York and New York Daily News calls you the hardest working man in comedy.
Yeah. It's one of the few things you can control in your career is how hard you work. So, comedy is not always a meritocracy. But I realized I was going to go insane if I focus on the things I couldn't control. And the things that I can control is I can get on stage as much as possible and work my jokes and polish my jokes. And that's the part of the process that I love, every single night I go on stage and I sometimes it's just changing one word of a joke. And that makes a huge difference. And so there's this sort of scientific discovery going on where you're running little experiments with your jokes and using the audience's responses to tell you what's working and what's not. So yeah, I love going on stage, and I know that is the fuel that makes my jokes funnier. So I try to do it as much as possible.
Good, good. Keep going. So tell me, I know you said you were eliminated from a reality television show.
Oh yeah, Last Comic Standing, eliminated. America's Got Talent, eliminated. Penn and Teller's Fool Us, they filmed me, didn't even air me. That's just me getting more efficient at getting eliminated.
Right.
I did Conan, which doesn't have eliminations, but if they did, who knows? That was like one of my favorite TV experiences because I was like, oh, they can't kick me off at the end. I just do my set and then I get to go home. It's great. But it's these shows like America's Got Talent are huge opportunities for exposure. And I knew that when they asked me to be on the show, they'd asked me several times. But I just wanted to go in there, do the best that I could, and hope that people enjoyed it. And the weird thing about it is, 20, 30 million people tune in to watch America's Got Talent. And even me doing 600, 700 shows a year for 12, 13 years straight, if you put every one of those people in one room, I'm not sure if that's 20 million people. Like, it's really crazy how a show like that works. So it was it's an awesome opportunity, and I tried to make the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage everyone to go watch the clip. It's quite.
I was about to encourage everybody to try out for that show, and I was about to say, don't do it.
No.
If you're gonna do that show, you have to be super prepared. Anytime I see somebody who's you have to go on that show way over prepared. I think that's the best way to get the most out of being on a show like America's Got Talent. It's not a show for your first year of comedy.
So how much prep? You must have done
so much prep. I mean, I had done thousands upon thousands of shows. And then once I knew I was doing that show, once I knew that they were flying me out, that set that you saw on the show, I ran that thing to death. So you go up every 3-4 times a night and you run that set. And those sets are usually 3 to 5 minutes. So I would run that as the beginning of my set every show, and then finish the rest of my time with other jokes. But I was basically prepping that set and then 2 other sets. So that was like a 15-minute set so that I could run it over and over and over again. So I knew that if I made it to the next round, I had another set that was equally prepared.
I have to say, you have some great videos. And one of the things that I really loved was the show you had a while ago, What's Your Problem?
Yes, on Facebook Watch.
That was so funny. Do you want to tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. There's a great production company called Atomic. We had worked together on Brain Games, which is a great show that was on Nat Geo. I think it's on Disney Plus now. And we enjoyed working together. The guys that work at Atomic are awesome. And we'd always been kicking around ideas. And they came to me and said, hey, we have this idea and we think you're the man for it. It requires being really quick on your feet. It requires comedy chops, and your psych degree would be really helpful because you're going to be a fake therapist. So it was the perfect sort of Venn diagram of things overlapping. And I remember being slightly nervous because when you're on the clock, when there's like an entire crew around you and it's costing money, you want to make sure that you want to be funny right away. And we really didn't know who we were going to run into on the street. I mean, the people on the couch on the other side of me are real people, people I've never met, and I also had no idea what we were going to talk about until they got there. So it is really improvised. And so you really want to deliver. And man, the good news is, it turns out New York City is full of a lot of characters. So it's hard to miss if you just say, hey, would you like to be on camera? And they're willing to do that in the middle of the day in New York City. The odds are they're going to be very interesting to talk to.
Yes, there were quite a few of them. And I can't believe you just pulled them off the street. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, some people thought, like, there was a construction worker guy who looks like he's straight out of Central Casting. And he really was just on a break from construction. That was really the dude. He was, everyone was amazing. Yeah. I was really nervous because when they initially pitched me the opening, they were like, you're just going to walk up to people and say, what's your problem? And I was like, I'm going to get punched in the face. You can't just walk up to somebody and go, what's your problem? And they're like, no, it's going to be really funny. And I was like, I'll do it, but stand by. If I get punched in the face, I'm going to need some medical. And I walked up and I said, what's your problem? And they would turn around as if to be like, who is this guy? And I'm dressed like a therapist. And then it was always that second time where I'm like, no, what's your problem? I'm here to help. And they would relax, and they would. I think that was helpful. Also, in that first shoot, You can't tell, but it's like 95 degrees or like 100 degrees out, and
Mm.
I'm wearing a sweater. And so I think it's I am unbelievably hot in all of those takes. So so if you're looking for an actor, the fact that I didn't look like I was melting, so casting directors, I can act like it's cool even when it's hot.
So another thing that I loved your video, the travelogue of
Yes,
recalculating.
recalculating. I was approached by the USTOA, the United States Tour Operators Association. They're amazing. And I basically pitched them on this idea of like, let's send me around the world, and I'll do a really fun, wacky activity, sort of off the beaten path in every country and every city. And we put together a crew. My sister actually helped me produce it. She's amazing. She works as a producer for reality television and is very talented.
Great.
And one of my former campers from Magic Camp, Ruben Moreland, who's just a genius with the camera. He did all the filming and editing. We also had a great B camera crew and sound. Everybody on the team was an all-star. So it was just really fun. We had a very tight-knit group and we traveled the world. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? There were some things that we shot that you didn't even get to see that were amazing. Like when I was in Vancouver, the guy who invented the California roll taught me how to make California rolls.
Wow.
And he was amazing. He's just one of the most incredible people I've ever met, and just so good at making sushi. But like everything, I mean, our very first international shoot was Vancouver, which is one of my favorite cities. And I got to play with dogs. And our very last shoot was in Lisbon in Portugal, and I got to make food with these adorable grandmas. So from beginning to end, it was a giant adventure. It was amazing.
Wow. How long did that go on for?
We would film them in groups. So Vancouver, Mexico City was one group. Slovenia and Lisbon was one group. We did a day shoot in Philadelphia, which Philadelphia was the activity we got to do. The American Treasure Tour was unbelievable. And Philadelphia is great. I mean, any shoot where you are obligated to chew down on several Philadelphia cheesesteaks is a good shoot.
Well, you made it all work. And thank you. I love when you speak about the shows. It's even as good as watching them, the videos.
Oh, thank you. And if you guys want to watch them, they're still online. It's
Awesome.
Recalculating with Harrison Greenbaum. It's gotten millions of views, which is really nice that people enjoyed watching them as much as we enjoyed making them. So keep watching them. Maybe we'll get to make some more.
Oh, I thought they were great. And I'd love to hear now about how you combine your comedian, as being a comedian and a magician.
It turns out sort of being a stand-up comic who does magic as opposed to the other way around, where it's often a magician who has some stand-up, is really interesting. I mean, I've been touring the show now for years, and it's so fun to have people come up and say, you know, either they haven't laughed that hard ever, or you know, if they say they haven't laughed as hard, that's the hardest they've ever laughed in a magic show. That's great. But some people say they just haven't laughed that hard ever. And it's, I'll take either one. It's, you know, I'm doing it because I love magic and I love comedy and I love combining the two in a way that might not have been done before. You know, there are a lot of people, comedy magicians who I've admired ever since I was a kid. And if I can carve out my own path and inspire others to look at their magic more as an art and do it in an original and artistic way, then I've done something, I hope.
I watched, and I told you when we spoke for the pre-interview about your proposal, your marriage proposal to Emily.
Oh, my engagement. Yeah.
And that, yes, that was the funny. I mean, I thought I would click on it, and I ended up staying on it for quite a long time till the end.
Well, we did it. I proposed to my now fiance Emily during the pandemic, and I realized because it was the pandemic, we couldn't physically be with all of our loved ones as we might have wanted to be for such like a special event.
Right. So
I figured the best thing to do would be to sort of produce it a little bit, make a video of it, so that at least even if they couldn't be there in person, we would have some kind of video that we could share with everybody. And actually, the guy, Ruben, who filmed my travel show, filmed and edited the engagement video. So we brought the band back together. Yeah, I had a little bit extra time during the pandemic to really plan it and go a little bit overboard. But yeah, I wanted it to be really special. I wanted a proposal as special as she was. And we love escape rooms and puzzles. And so I decided to do basically an escape neighborhood, to turn the whole neighborhood into an escape room and lead her all over to different places that had meaning to us. And she ended up tracing a heart throughout the entire city that led her back to me. And that's when I popped the question. Fun for me to watch it because I didn't really get to see her doing the proposal. I was busy setting up the roof and the final moments where I would actually get to propose. But she was running around doing the puzzles on her own. So getting to watch the video the first time was really emotional for me because I didn't get to see that part of the journey until the video was done. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. So in our, we have about 5 or so minutes, but I'd love to hear from you any type of recommendations, like you mentioned before, to young magicians and comedians. How, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is just to get on stage. The secret to being a good comedian is to get on stage, take in the data, which is whether the audience laughs or doesn't laugh, and if they do laugh, how much they laugh, and then adjust your material based on that data. And if you do that cycle, that algorithm over and over and over again, eventually you end up sort of bulletproof. And that's where good jokes come from. It's you try the joke on stage, the audience tells you what's working, what's not, and you just keep doing it over and over again until that joke is just consistently killing as hard as you want it to. And that is a cycle that just requires time and attention and a little bit of endurance, because you got to run that cycle over and over and over again. And especially at the beginning, when you don't really know what you're doing, a lot of those sets, the audience is going to be like, no. And so you got to keep running it until they start saying yes. And that applies to magic too. There's so many magicians, comedians perform so much, especially in New York, 10, 15 times a week. And sometimes you see magicians and they perform once a month, and that's not enough. It's not enough. With any performance art, it's all about getting up in front of a live audience. They're a vital part of what you do. So get on stage as much as possible. If you're having trouble getting booked, book your own show, produce your own show. That's what I did when I started in New York. I produced tons of shows. I'm actually currently producing a show now weekly in New York called Scam New York. It's the Society of Conjurers and Magicians. And it's a weekly immersive magic show. You go to magicscam.com. So still producing all these years later. But yeah, you got to get on stage as much as possible. And the other thing that I always tell people when they're thinking about what material they're doing is something that rhymes, which means it must be true. But it's, is it true? Is it new? Is it you? So anytime you come up with a trick or a joke, you want to evaluate whether it is true. Is it true to the world? Jokes based on stereotypes. Stereotypes aren't true. So any joke based on a hacky stereotype is not going to pass that test. Also true, sort of the interior logic. If you're writing a TV show and it has zany, wacky rules because it's sci-fi, those rules might not be the rules of our actual reality, but what you do must be true to the world that you've created. Same thing if you're creating a character as a comedian. You might not follow the rules of the world because you're this wacky, out of this world character, but you still need some kind of interior logic. So that's the true part. Is it new? Are you doing something that hasn't been done before? Are you basically what you do takes time. So you're investing your own time in the product. Mm-hmm. And the audience is also investing their time by being there to experience it. So are you doing justice to all this time being spent both on your side and the audience's side? So is it new? And then is it you? Are you doing stuff that is unique to you? Are you doing things that only you can do? Everybody has their own unique take on the world. And so you really want to do stuff that is uniquely you. The best comics, it's so, like when you hear a Chris Rock joke, you're like, that's a Chris Rock joke. Or when you hear a Jerry Seinfeld joke, you're like, that's a Jerry Seinfeld joke. And it's because they're doing things that are uniquely them. Sarah Silverman, Joan Rivers, all these guys that are like my heroes. They're just all the comedians behind me.
Oh, that's what's behind you.
There's a bunch of them. There's Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner and Weird Al. They're all so unique and true to themselves. So I think that is obviously I came up with that for comedy and for magic. Is it true? Is it new? Is it you? But I do think that applies a lot wider too to just what you're pursuing in your life.
Absolutely. That's fantastic advice. Is there anything else that you would like to spend a minute or so talking about, things that are coming up for you that people can watch or even
Yeah,
go?
absolutely. If they want to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Harrison Comedy. I'm also on TikTok now, so follow me there. You go on my website, harrisongreenbaum.com, that has links to everything. And my album, Harrison Greenbaum, live at Madison Square Garden. It was released last Friday.
Oh,
Should I
wow.
say last Friday? I don't know when this is airing. It
It'll
released on June 25th. So whenever you're watching this, it is out. So download it wherever you download your music, whether it's iTunes or Apple Music Store or Amazon Music Store or Spotify or wherever you get your music. Harrison Greenbaum live at Madison Square Garden. It is I headlined Madison Square Garden, 20,000 people. It definitely happened. And I did a very extravagant magic show that also definitely happened. And I figured the best way to capture a very visual and extravagant over-the-top magic illusion show was to only record and release the audio. So man, will you enjoy the sounds of magic and a little bit of juggling, maybe even a little bit of mime, dangerous escapes and mind reading, all for your ears only.
Thank
You will
you.
not believe your ears.
Well,
It definitely happened.
well, Harrison, thank you so much. This was fantastic. And you were terrific. And I encourage everyone to go view and especially go to his website because there's so much stuff there. You'll find a lot. So thank you, Harrison.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.